G'day guys, welcome to today's segment regarding rat testing chickens. Us Aussies, we love our rat tests. We love stockpiling them, complaining about shortages of them. We even love dipping them in orange juice to get a false positive to get out of work. But jokes aside, one thing us chicken keepers don't like is rats and chickens in our chicken coop. Now we had an overwhelming response following our last video on keeping rats and chickens out of your chicken coop. We thought we'd do a follow-up video because we got a series of questions from a bunch of chicken keepers, often very new to chicken keeping, and they were sort of complaining that there's no resources on the net that help identify if your chicken has been bitten by a mouse or rat or if it's molting. Because sometimes your chickens can have these red marks around the face that's obviously not fowl pox, but there's also a lack of feathers. So in today's video, we're going to show you a really easy and simple way to check if your chickens have been bitten by rats and mice, and an even simpler fix. So stay tuned. But before we get right into that homemade remedy, that little bit of science test, we're going to go through the structure of today's video. Now, I've had quite a bit of response from viewers that really like how we outline the structure of our video before jumping into it. So just letting you know, we've broken our video into 7 bite-sized segments. And we really like to try to keep on track. First thing we're going to do before we jump too deep into it is explore some of the comments and complaints regarding our last video. We love correspondence. We love hearing from people. We love hearing from even people that disagree with us, as long as they don't troll us. And I had a lot of discussion regarding one topic to do with free ranging. I just want to unpack our response and our thoughts using a little bit of evidence to back up what we're saying. So that's the first segment. The second segment?
Our inspiration is to make this video, and a thank you to one of our viewers.
Yeah, well read, Soph. Yeah, so the second segment is our inspiration to make this video, and a thank you to one of our viewers. Then we're going to jump into additional information regarding rat infestation evidence. One thing that we really liked with our last video is we got some really nice comments regarding additional things that chook keepers have noticed, which helps you determine whether there's rat or chicken in your coop. So we're going to unpack that. It's only going to go for a couple of seconds and just add a little bit more infestation evidence to build up our knowledge base.
Number 4, a hassle-free method to determine if your chicken is a victim of rat bites or just molting.
Really well read, Soph. Very impressive, yeah. And this really hassle-free method uses science. It just doesn't use anecdotal evidence. It uses a scientific method, and we're going to have a control, and we're also going to have a clear evidence to prove using science the state your chicken in. Number 5, Soph, do you want to read that one?
Number 5, what to do if you find your chook is bitten by rats or sustained an injury.
Yeah, what to do if you find your chook's been bitten by rats or has sustained an injury. That was my bad. The next one is a really cool one. Sophie's going to be showing you a do-it-yourself method to make Blue-Kote. Now, Blue-Kote is a commercial brand of chicken spray that both uses an antiseptic to heal wounds, but also stop chickens attacking or biting injured chooks. We're going to show you how we make our own method and give you a hands-on experience of how to make it, because this is a great way to fix your chook if it's been bitten or sustained an injury. And last off, our last segment is
final thoughts segment.
Yeah, people love the final thoughts. We'll just sit down, unpack a little bit, and just say where to go from there. All right, let's get into it. So Soph and I are just hanging out in the backyard, having a bit of a chat to the chooks, and we thought we'd film this segment here. Now, our first segment is responses to correspondence. Now, we had a lot of chicken keepers that emailed us regarding our last video saying, forget the free range model. It puts too much pressure, predator pressure on your chickens, and it's just not worth it. You can have cleaner, healthier and happier chickens inside a coop. Now, out of those 3 points, there's a couple that are true. Number 1, of course, the chickens will keep cleaner. They'll have a better coat. And if you're the type that want to show chickens, yeah, they'll stay cleaner and fresher. Another thing is predator pressure, 100%. There's a lot less predator pressure inside a coop than free ranging. Yes, you can mitigate those pressures using really good systems of netting or guardian dogs, but yes, they'll always be there. But Soph, before I keep jabbering on, I want Soph to have a bit of a chat on your response. Free range compared to coop chickens.
They're much better, obviously, but there's something called micro interactions. Do you want to tell them what that is?
Yeah, I'm always banging on about this. And before I bang on about micro interactions, as a father, I think it's really important for us out there to educate our sons and daughters that people will disagree with us, and the best response is to sit down, take a deep breath, and have a measured response. Using evidence, using justification. If you've got statistics, throw them on the table, or even anecdotal experiences. Now, micro interactions is just something that Sophie and I have coined, where chickens show higher order thinking and a depth and clarity of thought when allowed to free range and not under predator pressure. This isn't much higher order thinking, she's just looking all around the place, but that's okay. Now I'm going to show you a couple of clips. Now, to respond to this question, we jumped in the car. I drove out to Sunshine, where one of my mates has a really beautiful chicken coop. You'll notice his chickens, I think they're mostly eyes are brown from memory, I can't remember, have a look at the video. And his chickens are immaculate. They're healthy, they're strong, they're clean, and yes, they're confined. I want you as viewers to really look at how they're interacting and how they're behaving around each other. Okay, then I want you to look at the clip from us. The first thing you'll notice is it's one of our garden cameras, so it's not the best quality. And you'll also notice the chickens aren't as pretty looking. Their coats aren't immaculate, their claws aren't shining and clean. But one thing, just noticing some ducks drinking out the pond behind us, one thing you will notice will be interesting, strange behaviour. We have a firm belief that when chickens are allowed to free range, roam and feed themselves, they show a lot more higher order thinking, both in their interactions and communications. And this is the main reason why I'm an advocate for free range. So without any more ado, sit back, watch the two clips. Confined chicken, obviously you'll love the condition of them, but look at their behaviour compared to a hidden camera in our backyard with our chickens behaving in the middle of the day. I'll do some narrations on top to explain what's going on. So this is my mate's coop. I've got Soph next to me helping me narrate. What do you notice, Sophia?
Well, they look strong, clean, and healthy.
100% Soph. And as you can see, as mentioned before, their eyes are brown and australogs. Yes, their combs and wattles are a little bit faded, but it's the end of the laying season, so you've got to keep that in mind. A small hole in the coop there, ignore that. But I want you to really think about how they are behaving, interacting and responding to one another. All right, it's a 36-degree day scorcher. The ducks are sitting under the couch doing nothing. However, 20 minutes later, all the chickens start assembling for some kind of quasi-courtroom. You've got Rooster on the left like a bailiff, keeping everyone under control. You've got a Welsummer, Americana, a duck, making some kind of strange general announcement to everyone to keep everything in check. You've got Gold Lace Wyandotte just approaching. You would have noticed the Buff Orpington on the left coming down. It's these kind of micro interactions that we can only try to fathom what's going on in their head. What are they talking about? And it seems quite official. It's these kind of micro reactions and flock behavior that baffles us that you don't get during confinement. Because the reality is, it's a 36-degree day. They're not eating. Why aren't they just sleeping under it? Later that day, Soph arrives home from school, makes a nice tasty oat cake. However, we've been having trouble with some of our golden chickens not eating enough. And this is where Rooster steps in. You'll notice him breeze past to the left of the screen twice. And what he's doing is he's driving the more underfed chooks towards the food and forcing the other ones to let them eat. And it's this kind of guardian behavior, relationship, and symbiotic relationship that really baffles us, that you just don't get in free range. Like, why is a dog ensuring a chicken is being fed? This kind of communication, higher order thinking, and respect for one another, you just don't see visible in confinement. Our next segment is a short one. It's just a quick thank you and an inspiration for making this video. I'd like to thank, and Sophie would like to thank,
Patricia Day.
it's comments like you that really make us love the job we do. This brings us to our next section, additional information regarding rat infestation. Following our last video, we had quite a lot of messages on Facebook from chicken keepers, saying they want us to give a little bit more information to the people out there about rat infestation and evidence, and they actually gave us the information. And I had a bit of a chat with Soph about animal activists. You don't have to be a person who's throwing paint on fur or chaining yourself to the gates of chicken keepers and chicken farmers to make a difference in the lives of animals. You can actually have animal activism in a different way, through educating and sharing information to make animal lives better, whether you're keeping donkeys, chickens, dogs, or quails. So I feel really good about this segment because we're sharing information that was sent to us from other viewers. And a couple of viewers from the States sent us a message and talking about occasionally you will get deaths from rats, and sometimes you get people that are a little bit loud, like this lovely lady. And if you find your chickens have been killed but dragged into the corners, usually it's either a rat or a mongoose, which I thought was pretty cool. Good to know. So if you come out, obviously in the States, and you find your chickens are dead but in the corner and they've been killed by their head or their neck, it's generally a rat or a mongoose attack. And so you've got to change your style of keeping in order to stop that problem happening. Another thing is, if it's non-lethal and you're just on the right spot, rats and mice go for the more fleshy, less feathered parts. So apart from the old missing toes, you'll have the cuts around the wattles. Wattles? Which one's which? Soft wattles?
So, wattles and comb.
That's why you have your daughter here to help you. So you got the missing toes, the cuts around the face, and around the coop, other stuff. Apparently, according to some chicken keepers, that rat poop is more rounded at the ends, about the size of a large piece of rice. Good to know. And you'll see tracks around the outside perimeter of your garden fence, because apparently rats run in straight lines, which was something new to me anyway. So there's just a little bit of additional information that was sent to us that I feel we could share. Let's jump into our next segment. All right, this brings us to our next segment, how to tell if your beautiful chicken or duck has got rat bites, cuts, or just molting. Now the thing about chickens is, just like us humans, they get rashes. And you don't want to treat the rash the same way you treat a cut. It's just simple maths. And I'm going to introduce you to probably the most important product in chicken keeping that everyone should have. It's hydrogen peroxide 3%. Now, before I get all these comments saying I want organic chickens in my backyard, I want to get rid of that misconception to do with organic chicken keepers. Organic does not mean it only comes from nature. I was at a shop the other day with Soph in Ashburton, a pet shop, right? And I'm always trashing Ashburton. I'm aware of that. And I was just looking for some chicken feed because you always want to top up, and they only had this seed-based one. And I said to the lady behind the counter, or young gent, can't remember, and said, "Look, is there anything that has any of the micronutrients?" And they said, no, you just feed your chickens nothing but seeds, because chickens, if you want organic chickens, you can have organic chickens, or if you want vegetarian chickens, you can have vegetarian chickens. It's actually healthier. This is a myth. And a lot of the crazy wannabe organic / environmentally friendly chicken keepers out there are actually doing a big detriment. A chicken's vegetarian, Soph?
No, they're not vegetarian. They were brought up like they're animals. They can eat anything. Basically.
Yeah, referred to as omnivores.
Yeah.
So before we get this myth about organic chicken keepers have to have stuff that's only found in nature, it can be synthesized from humans to be a natural chemical. Now this is hydrogen peroxide, and make sure when you get it from your local chemist, it's 3%. Repeat, 3%. Now you might be thinking this is a nasty looking chemical. Back your truck up. It's 3% hydrogen peroxide. The rest is water. Now, so do you know what the chemical breakdown of water is?
H2O.
Yeah, a little bit louder so people can actually.
H2O.
Yeah, do you know what that means?
Don't know.
It's two hydrogen, right? Two hydrogen elements, the elements of things you can't break down, and H2, so two hydrogen, one oxygen, right? When you put those elements together, you get a molecule known as water. We drink in it, we have baths in it. Now, the chemical breakdown for hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. So it's simply two hydrogens, two oxygens, which makes a natural chemical. And this is a natural chemical that's in your body, my body, even in this guy's body. And what happens is, have you ever heard of cells, Soph? Cells. Cells are those little things in your body. We got billions, trillions, whatever of them. I'm not a mathematician. And when you have eat some food, you get the carbohydrates, which turns into sugar, right? That's called cellular respiration. It's how our cells power, right, Soph?
Yeah.
And when you get aerobic respiration, that means when you have food being broken down with oxygen in your blood, it releases a chemical called peroxides. Yeah, it sounds a lot like hydrogen peroxide. It's a naturally occurring thing. And in our blood, we have this thing called a catalyst and catalase, in case any scientists correct me. I'm just a primary school teacher, so like back your truck up before you troll. In our body, we have this natural chemical that breaks down hydrogen peroxide because it occurs naturally in small numbers. And you might be thinking, this is a really foreign product. You guys are surrounded by it. If you're a teacher, an office worker, and you're getting recycled paper, it's this chemical that they put into their paper, which lets them claim it's environmentally friendly, although it's just made from trees, let's be honest, because they use this for bleaching instead of chlorine. But let's go back to the application. So when you put hydrogen peroxide on an animal, it has to be 3%, okay, you don't want to burn them. What happens is, if it's got evidence of bacterial infection or, more importantly, cuts, it will oxidize. Oxidize meaning basically it will bubble and froth. It's that bubble and froth, that reaction, where the hydrogen peroxide is being released into oxygen again, that bubbling, and just then it converts into water. So hydrogen peroxide in presence of an enzyme called catalase in blood and some forms of bacteria will oxidize, which means break it down, and that bubbling action on your chicken will actually push out, just like some ultimate cleanse, all the foreign particles, debris, or any infection that might be present. What we're going to do is we're going to do a little simple proof of how this works. I'm going to grab one of our chickens. I'll probably grab our Australorp. What's our Australorp? What's her name?
Her name is Lavender.
Lavender, yeah, but she's a black chicken called Lavender. Classic. We're going to grab her, and you can look around her face and notice that she is got some red around her face. We know she's molting. You can probably see feathers in the background, or you're just staring at this duck like I would be. We know she's molting, but I just want to show you what happens when you put peroxide on an animal that hasn't received an injury or isn't bleeding or hasn't got bacteria present. Then we're going to do the exact same and look at the reaction on blood. And before the animal activists start trying me, we won't be testing on a chicken blood, but we're going to come to that in a minute. All right, let's get our science gear on. Let's get ourselves that chicken. Go. So here has our peroxide, our 3% formula. You get it for about $5 from Chemist Warehouse, the best antibacterial on the market. And now pour it into a shallow dish. Okay, so far so good. Now you might notice in Soph's hand while she pours that, she's got just a play syringe. You get these for about $2. I don't like using the real ones. You can use the real ones, but you'll notice obviously there is no needle present. And you might be wondering why we're using a syringe on a spray bottle. Whenever you're using any chemicals around chicken, you want a little bit more precision, okay? And we find using a syringe to squirt is a lot more accurate. So Soph's just filled it up. Got about 2-3 mil in there. If you're wondering what the glue is, that's my bad. I was giving Soph a lesson on how hydraulics work. That was another science lesson, nothing to do with chickens. So now we've got a little syringe filled 2 mil of hydrogen peroxide. All right, let's go get a chicken. As you can see, this Australorp's looking pretty red and ragged around the face. And she's not really happy about being held. She'll be pretty happy because you'll notice on our table when we finish this, we're going to cut a nice passion fruit that just picked as a little payment for her. Now, what you'll notice here is you've got the syringe that Soph filled up. Now, give that to Soph, yep. Now, always, whenever you're giving any medication to a chicken, it's always good to just keep her calm. Now, anyone that knows this, she was a rescue originally, so she's now what you'll notice is she's not enjoying it, but Soph's giving her a bit of a spray around the infected looking areas. And peroxide 3% is a very safe chemical. You don't have to worry about any adverse side effects. And also if you get a little bit in your eye, it's all fine. We actually use it inside to gargle with. It's a bit of a Russian method. And we put on all our cuts as well. Now, what you'll notice is, I'll zoom in on a beautiful head. She's a little bit agitated because she doesn't like what we're doing. But when it comes to chicken health, and you'll see, there's no frothing, no bubbling.
And if you see that, that's just a bit of skin.
Yeah, you can see a bit of skin, but there's no really adverse reactions. Okay.
Alright, mate.
Okay, and so put the whole thing on. The last thing that's very important for us now is cut open a passion fruit and give this girl a bit of payment. And it's funny, once she sees the passion fruit come out, if you notice, she's all going quiet and looking a little bit different. But that's chickens for you, master manipulators, and we love them. And there's no way we deliberately infect harm on a creature, especially a chicken that we love. So the best way to test is ourselves. Now, would you use an at-home diabetes test kit? And what you'll notice is I'm just pricking my finger lightly and getting a little bit of blood. Now, before you trial, every Australian man over 30 should test their blood for blood sugar levels at least twice a year, according to the CDC, Centre of Disease Control America, which we follow, although obviously we live in Australia. Now, as you can see, once we add the peroxide, you'll notice it's starting to fizz. Now, you might want to get a little bit closer to your camera, but you can see that oxidization, which isn't the right word to be honest, but you can see the hydrogen peroxide being separated into water and oxygen. Now, this frothing, if you put it on a chicken, would indicate that something has either bitten it or cut its face, which would clearly rule out molting. And the more bacteria or damage present, the more it will bubble. Now, I did it a couple of times. Actually, my wife did the test on me and quite enjoyed giving me a little prick. But if you have a look, you can see clearly. And as I said before, every Australian man over 30 should test himself for diabetes at least twice a year to check your blood sugars and graph it, just to keep healthy, especially for a big lad like mine. This isn't me inflicting self-harm. It's just me proving a scientific principle. So if you add peroxide and it starts frothing, it is time to launch into first aid. Cue Sophia cooking. So Soph, imagine you've done our test from before and you've seen that bubbling from the peroxide and identified that your chicken has infection, cuts or rat bites. What's the first treatment that you should do?
You should do a Blue-Kote.
And a Blue-Kote is a medicine that you put on the chicken to both help it heal quickly and ensure that other chickens don't peck it. All right, let's make our own Blue-Kote. What do you need?
All right, so you need hot water, a mortar and pestle.
Nice, yep.
Teaspoon.
Yep.
A little jar.
To store in the fridge, yep.
Honey.
Yep, which we harvested this morning, yep.
Lavender.
Now, if you don't have any lavender, because it's the end of summer here, you can buy lavender oil concentrate. What's that, Soph?
Blue dye, and
yep.
We've got rosemary and a funnel.
All right. So the first thing you do is you start stripping the rosemary and, yep, nice work, and putting as much as you can in the mortar and pestle. So as you can see, Soph's being really generous with the application of her rosemary. She's stripped the sticks and she's adding. Now, while she adds it, I'll tell you why we're doing this element first. This is the most important thing you can add to your Blue-Kote that always gets overlooked whenever you read books on it. The thing is, rosemary is an epic plant. It's one of the few plants that chickens won't eat. The aroma alone will guarantee chickens won't want to peck your injured chicken. But more importantly, believe it or not, rosemary, this simple plant that we've been adding to our lamb roasts and souvlaki for so many years, has 22 identified components that have positive health effects on bodies like us and the chicken. It has bacterial inhibitors, which help stop bacteria getting in. It's got antibacterial properties against positive gram bacteria, which are the ones you'll hear about. They're the ones that cause all the serious problems. And as you know, bacteria is measured by its cell wall. So positive gram bacteria are the ones with a really strong mesh-like wall. Now, it has also antifungal properties. So Soph's going to start grinding this up. And before you start grinding up, if anyone wants to get more information, I'll put a little thing on the screen. Google environmental toxicology and pharmacology rosemary. Next step, pour a little bit of boiling water on your mortar and pestle. A little bit more, Soph, a little bit more. When that's done, you can see the steam coming off. You just need to tamp it down lightly, Soph. Tamp it down lightly. And what you're doing is you're ensuring that all the rosemary is submerged in your boiling water. Excellent. Now the next job you need to do is wait a couple of minutes. And when you've waited a couple of minutes, you need to pour your water from mortar and pestle through a strainer just into a small little bowl. All right, so if watching your fingers, pour as much as you can. And yep, I'll hold that. That's a ticket. Perfect stuff, and that's probably enough. Don't want to go overboard. And now you're starting to see a really nice concentrate. You'll notice it's picking up some of the colours and the aromas. Now the next step, Soph, is go nuts with that honey. Using a lot of guesstimation, the idea is to make a thick paste. So Soph's now nice and quickly spreading the honey in here. Now doing it while the water's hot is actually pretty cool because it does help the honey mix up, which is pretty cool. And use it all. You notice the viscosity of the water is slowly thickening, but it's still pretty squirty. Not that that's a scientific word. Now everyone knows honey is a bacteria and fungus inhibitor as well, so you're getting a lot of help with that stuff. And the high sugar content will help it preserve in the fridge. Now Soph's adding the lavender essential oil. You don't need too much of this because remember this is a lot more concentrated. And so we're going to add about quarter to a half of a teaspoon. Give it a good shake, Soph. Yep. And nothing really compares to your own lavender through a mortar and pestle. But as I said, it's middle of summer, so we don't have much of this handy. Yep, it looks great, Soph. Pour it in. And give it a good mix up.
Might just put a little more.
Oh yeah, don't be stingy. Now with the lavender is a great product. It has some cool naturally occurring stuff. It's got this thing called linalool, which isn't an insult. It's a naturally occurring turpentine or terpene alcohol. It's known for an anti-inflammatory and it really helps deter mites from the infected area. But there's a bit of a warning with lavender. There has been a lot of studies both on animals and humans that if you have a rash, lavender can accentuate it, exaggerate it, make it worse. So if your chicken has any rash, steer clear of the lavender. But for a rat bite or a cut, lavender's great. All right, it's pity you can't smell that through the YouTube TV.
It smells so good.
Yeah, it smells epic. Let's just put some lamb roast and just dunk the whole thing in, which I don't think would be healthy though. So the next thing you're gonna do is you're going to funnel your pre-made product into your glass jar. And you might be thinking to yourself, yep, go for it, Soph, why aren't we doing the dye now? Add the dye at the end because the minute you add the serious concentration of dye, yep, that's enough, Soph. Wow, it's very generous. It'll ruin whatever vessel you use. So if you use a nice Tupperware, it'll ruin that. We use a glass jar, just left over from a honey sample pot that we sterilized because we don't really care if this gets ruined. All right. Last step is the blue food dye. Now remember, we're not dyeing it like a cupcake. We're actually staining it. So this goes against every instinct, any people that love making cakes or cupcakes. So if it was me, I'd just pour it in, but Soph's a little bit more sensible. So we want at least 3 teaspoons, which sounds excessive, but in this situation, it's what we need. And this is a bit where us parents start wetting our pants because we know how clumsy our children can be. But you've got to get your kids working in the kitchen, both cooking and preserving and making remedies. Another one of them. You know what, Soph? Let's be generous. Chuck another one in. And you might think this is an excessive amount of dye, but the idea is we have to stain the skin of the chicken. All right, bang the lid on, Soph. Now what Soph's just made, excuse Rooster, he's getting ready for dinner because I've been filming this for most of today. What Soph has made, and is the lid on properly, Soph?
Yep, I hope so.
Before I give it a shake for the camera, is our own version of Blue-Kote. Now you might be wondering, why aren't we using a spray bottle? When we apply this, we like to use an empty syringe because you have more accuracy getting the chicken where it needs compared to a spray bottle. All right, we're gonna bang this in the fridge, and this will be good for about 6 weeks. We won't be applying it on our chicken because, as you said, as you would have seen, it doesn't have any bites, only molting. So thanks for tuning in today's segment, rat testing chickens. We all love our chickens, we all want the best for our chickens, and using our simple method, you can determine whether there's infection present or lacerations around your chicken's wattle, comb and face. A couple of things to remember with hydrogen peroxide. Number one, it's not a bleach, and it should not be used to disinfect or clean your chicken coop. One thing you can use it for is spraying the bedding down. There's this really cool study coming out of Malaysia. If you Google Muhammad bin Azman 2010, there's this cool study where he's researching using hydrogen peroxide 3% to minimize sulfur dioxide in chicken poop, and it minimizes odor. So there's some great stuff. We're still researching that stuff. We're still reading his peer-mediated journal, but keep that space interesting. Another thing is, remember, when hydrogen peroxide hits a cut, it's the chemical enzyme catalase, that reaction that you see bubbling. It's great to use on a first cut, but if you get a chicken with a cut, do not use it over and over and over again, just as a first remedy to push anything out, and then use your Blue-Kote to let it heal over. There's a lot of things, occasionally if you Google chicken keepers, they'll have these big things that say do not use hydrogen peroxide. The people that have all that information have no peer-mediated journals that they can think of. It's a little bit up there with Donald Trump using ivermectin to get rid of COVID. So another really cool thing, if you want to Google hydrogen peroxide, Google E. coli. There's also studies coming out that hydrogen peroxide can be used to see if chickens have E. coli in their poop, which is like this thing that lives in this bug that lives in intestines or something of animals, and this bacteria actually has catalase. It's one of the few bacteria that has it. So if you ever hear the government going on, there's an E. coli outbreak, before you register with council and think if you've got a problem, put a bit of hydrogen peroxide on the chicken poop. If it's not bubbling, you can almost guarantee you don't have E. coli present. And lastly, before we get sued, Blue-Kote is a great product. Buy the real thing. The method we showed you was a get out of jail free card way to make it yourself. We buy it, and I'll put a link down to a place on Amazon where you can buy it. It's every chicken keeper should have it. But with chicken keeping, whenever there's a problem, it seems to be Monday morning just before you're off to work, or Sunday afternoon when all the agricultural feed shops are shut. So our remedy is make your own, but I strongly suggest you buy yourself a proper spray packet, because they, instead of lasting 6 weeks on the shelf, the real one lasts like indefinitely from what we find. So buy yourself some real Blue-Kote. We have it, you should have it. Get yourself some. So thanks so much for tuning in on rat testing chickens. Remember to like and subscribe so Sophia and I can make some more videos. Thanks.